Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one and all, and welcome to WOR. Fortunately, while his camera has taken a bit of a hiatus, I'm not really sure what's happened there, but we do have Mr. Max Ring joining us in the place of Corey Brooks. There you go, there he is, there's the man himself. Welcome in. Good to have you in the commentary box, mate. Good to have you back.
Hello, everybody. Pleasure to be back here alongside you, Ben. Of course, when I was last here, it was the first round of the season. And once again, stepping in for Corey. He's a bit busy with work, and I hope his work's going all well. But yeah, pleasure to be back here, Ben. We're going to have an exciting race on our hands this evening. How are you on this Monday evening?
Oh, well, doing pretty well, I've got to say. Your camera is a little bit frozen, but while we take a look at that, we can take a quick look at the standings, and we can look at what our season has had in store thus far. One driver has really been a domineering force throughout this season up to this point. Jan Halliday, 101 points, over double the points of the next closest driver, Caden Luke, who is in second place with 48, and then Keanu Leotour with 47, so just a single points difference between himself. And then, if you look even further behind that, fourth and fifth, Van Rooyen and Schmidt, there's going to be 46 and 45 points respectively. So second to fifth, looking as dense of a fight as one can get, but Halliday is going to be well and truly off and away with it, although I hear he's not actually racing tonight, is he?
No, he is not. So that's going to be something to look out for as well today. So the likes of Leotour and Rutan all have an opportunity to fight their way back into this championship, and a real good chance to capitalise this evening in Hungary. Of course, it's the race before the festive break, so if you want to make a mark, you want to do that now, and for Leotour or Rutan to end off this first part of the season on a high, close that championship gap and slice it in half. Perfect way to do so, and then you've got the momentum on your side heading into the second part of the season.
Yeah, and of course we've got a pretty exciting second half of the season to boot. Of course, we're here tonight with round 6 in the Hungary ring, but you have a quartet of China, Canada, Austria, and then Sao Paulo to finish. We'll wrap up by the end of January and get ourselves rigged up for season 20 and beyond. Been a great season 19 thus far, but we have still got a few more races left in the pocket, and for some drivers it's a chance to really push forward. Now, we are going into qualifying in just a moment, folks, but a reminder of the kind of gauntlet these drivers have to face. 4.4 kilometers, 14 turns, and 2 DRS zones, although you could technically count it as one complex because it's the start-finish straight and then between turns 1 and 2. It's the Hungary ring, and it's one of my personal favorites. I don't know about you, Max.
Yes, I do really like this circuit. It's very much a driver's track. You've got to be very nice on your throttle application, very smooth with the steering, very much where if you're not too great with some of the driving on this game, maybe not too used to the physics. Of course, these guys are the tier 2 drivers. They'll probably be quite used to the cars, but it's very much a track that punishes you for mistakes as well. As they call it, Monaco without the walls. And it'll be an interesting race here tonight, and we'll see how the drivers do take this one. We're into qualifying now, and the first driver that'll be heading onto an outlet will be Liam Stevens in the RB.
Yep, and this is where we hand over, of course, to you watching at home. Let us know who you are looking to see out there on track today, who you're wanting to see come out on top in qualifying. And with that all being said, let's go trackside and let's jump on board with none other than Liam Stevens. He's going to be out in the RB, first driver to get out there, and it's looking a little bit overcast. I'm not detecting rain, but I am detecting fairly cold temperatures, although we will see how these drivers can make this one work, because Hungary, it tends to be on the hotter side in terms of track temps regardless of the weather.
Yeah, it does, for just the way the sun just shines all over the circuit, and the track really abrasive on those tyres. So as Liam Stevens does a nice preparation lap to get himself underway, we'll see what he is going to be able to do as he heads through the final corner. And there is some rain early on in this session. It has started to have a little sprinkle on the circuit. So this lap from Liam Stevens could be the lap that decides pole position as he heads down into turn 1 now. Out of the corner, a little slide on the rear engine. Open DRS is just slightly getting back on the power as he heads into turn 2 now, down to 4th gear. Slowly bring that power back up, run to the right-hand side, through turn 3. It's flat out through there. It's now your run up to turn 4. Make sure you don't go too aggressive over the inside curb here to chuck you out wide, and he doesn't. Brilliantly done there from Liam Stevens to keep that car within play. Through turn 5, hard to get the power back down, but nicely done once again. As you head into the gain of 6 and 7, taking a lovely amount of apex curb at 7, 8. Now leads into 9. It's a nice little S sort of section through this middle part of the lap. So as he heads through turn 11, it will then be down the hill into the late braking zone of turn 12. Easy to catch you out as you then get over that apex curve, run the car out wide. This has been a magnificent lap so far from Liam Stevens, if I say so myself, as he heads through 13. And now into the final corner. It is very, very long, so you have to be so patient to get the foot back to the floor as Marquardt has retired from the session. This is the benchmark and could be pole position. Stevens 13.4, but Leo Lund just about goes quicker.
Yeah, you see, the bar has been set, and now who's going to be challenging? Schmidt, 13.151. Absolutely blistering out there. You've got some drivers who are trying to make a challenge on that and are not quite getting there. Rapasa, 0.335. Strogis, 0.209. So they are really just trying to get those laps done and get them out as quickly as possible, because as you saw, a sprinkle of rain, nothing enough to materially settle, but you have got enough to really put the nerves on some of these drivers. We look to the grid, we can see 16 out of 18 cars who have been able to set a time. Van Ruyten and Pressican heading back into the pits after, I assume, an invalidation, and then Marquardt crashing out just outside of turn 9 there. So unfortunately, a premature end.
Yeah, very premature end there for Marquardt's session, and that probably is going to be it for qualifying, because the rain is coming down. It's coming down a little bit harder than it was at the start of this session. We'll have to wait and see, though, how this track remains. If it remains dry, there could still be a possibility for some improvements. If it gets too greasy, then we have seen our grid set, and that would be Yannick Schmidt on pole position by just over half a tenth of a second. So as everyone now comes into the pit lane after that opening rush of cars, it will be down to Danny Van Ruyten and Tudor Prescan to see what they can do. But of course, everyone else going out early on in this session means they would have had the better track conditions. What will the Williams and the Papaya McLaren be able to do in this session? But I reckon their main focus here, try break into that top 10, because it's quite difficult to overtake around a circuit like Hungary.
Well, I'd argue that really their primary target is just get something on the boards. You don't want to be sat there without a lap, and then when the rain starts to come down and really affect your times, you might as well have not set a lap anyway. So they need to just get something on the board at this point. Anything will put them ahead of Marquardt, and I'd argue Longue, because he's got a 14.1. It's 4 tenths adrift to the next closest time. We're starting to see some of the glossiness come onto the track. And this is where you get to that double-edged sword moment. You have a little bit of rubber laid down, but when it comes to the wet conditions, that rubber laid down effectively becomes like an oil slick. So you want to time this perfectly. Van Ruyten is going to be riding on the edge of borrowed time here, and a little bit of inside scrub as he heads through Sector 1. Now making his way down the hill to the end of the sector, heading up into Turn 4. Ticks it to the left, just about keeping it within those limits. So nicely balanced there for Van Ruyten. Good first sector time as well to boot. A little bit on the lower side, but still, he holds his nerve, he holds his speed. He rides the curbs and is able to keep the car fairly balanced for now, if a little bit wobbly on that throttle application. Through turn 11, nice and smoothly done. It's going to be a good second sector as well. Again, a couple of tenths of a second adrift, but he could make this one back in Sector 3 if he just nails the line. He has to get this one right, so dives back to the left before swinging it in to the apex of Turn 14. Fires it down the start-finish straight. Is it going to be enough? It's a 13.563, a solid lap. And enough of E13. Is Pressigan going to be going to challenge that now? We'll see the other driver who has yet to put a time on the boards. Of course, excluding Marquardt, who crashed out, as we said, outside of turn 9. Making his way through the final apex here and up to the line. It's a 0.608, so he's just going to be slightly adrift of Van Ruyten there, and is going to have an identical time at this point to none other than Caden Lutz, second place in the championship. And a driver, in fact, I'd argue, is really going to need a bit of a boost upwards on that timing board.
Yeah, he certainly will. Will the Haas driver, Yannick Schmidt, I saw, was down by half a tenth in that first sector. But let's stay on board with the man second in the standings. Of course, with Jan Halliday not here this evening, a big opportunity for Keaton to capitalise. So, as he heads up into turns 4, all 1/10 down in that first sector.
And a slide.
That is a big chunk of time lost. A big slide as well through turn 4. I think this track just getting a little bit too slippery for these drivers to navigate here this evening, as we now head through turns 8 into 9. Try hold your nerve, try hold the composure on the throttle through there. As you head through 10, let's see if he's still able to try and keep turn 11 flat. Yes, he is for now, but still bleeding time throughout this lap. And for Keaton, it is not looking like a lap time that will improve him off 14th place and that 7th row of the grid. He's got to look to come into the pit lane now. Yes, he is. Yannick Schmidt wasn't able to improve on his lap time. Nobody seeming to improve on their laps so far. Laurie Tulke's down by nearly half a second in that middle sector. What about Matteo Longe? Of course, he was a driver we pointed out that needed to set a decent lap time in this session. Did find some time, but still 3 attempts off the back from Justin Ertz. So I think that's going to be it for this session here, Ben, because it seems the track just getting a little bit too damp and the drivers struggling to find that grip they need to push the limits of the car.
They really are struggling out here, and you can see, even with the likes of Yannick Schmidt, I was tabbing back and forth as you were going through Caden Lutz's run, and he was just dropping tenths sector on sector, and that is very uncharacteristic of the Schmidt that we know. So I think that we are starting to see the track gradually get wetter and wetter, and we're not going to be seeing any meaningful change in that timing board here in this quali session. It might be a case of now just calling it in and the drivers deciding that enough is enough. You can see them flowing into the pit lane en masse. Nobody is going to be going for a run, at least for a little bit. But saying that, Van Ruyten and Pressican are out once again, so they're still seeing something in this quali session, and they're still on the slick, so I wonder what their game is here.
I wonder if this is only a short burst of rain that will end with about 5 minutes left of this session. That's what I think these drivers are gambling on, is that it's going to end very fairly shortly, and the track will grip up once again. That's the only reasonable outcome I see from this, because usually by now, if they know the track will not improve, it will just keep getting worse and worse, they will retire their car from the session. So there is still something on the horizon in this qualifying session, so keep your eyes peeled. So for Danny Van Ruyten, as we now head down that main straight into turn 1, braking around about 75 meters to get that car down to 3rd gear, back on the power ever so gently in these conditions to switch that DRS back on as we head into turn 4, down to 4th gear. Use the natural understeer to guide your car to that right hand side as you then flick it over the curb through turn 3. So the Williams driver, is he up or down in the first sector? And just like we've seen everybody else do so far, he is down. Nicely done through turn 4. Lovely amount of commitment through there. Turn 5, using all the track he possibly can as he heads into 6 and 7. Get that first apex curb right, the big left-hand apex of 7, but unfortunately he has invalidated. Unfortunate there for Van Ruyten. He stays 13th fastest. We now head over to Tudor Prezik, and what's he doing in the first sector? A 10.5 down. Yeah, I think this track's still not improving enough yet, but there is certainly another twist in this tail because drivers still coming out for more laps.
I think there's going to be one of two outcomes from this. They're either hoping that the rubber being laid down, the track evolution, is going to outweigh the light drizzle, or they're, as you said, hoping for the rain to disappear as quickly as it came and for the track to warm up again in order to be able to get those optimal times back out there. Oh, we see a big kick of the rear, though, for Roman Presican. Barely keeps that McLaren under control. Suddenly, he's going for the big slide. He's going for the style points in the final sector. Credit to him, but that's hardly going to be an optimal position, and that might be a bit of a warning flag to the kind of conditions the drivers are now going to be seeing. We jump aboard, for instance, with Sixten Linhart, and you can see he's wobbling the car. He's trying to keep it gripped up, and he's really struggling here. I think as are many drivers. The rain is starting to hit that tipping point, and we see him wash very wide.
Yeah, that rain has just got too heavy for these slick tyres to really manage a push lap on. And we really are seeing the drivers being pushed to their own car control capabilities. And so far, no one going round, and hopefully that remains the same. Just to show how quick, good these drivers are with their reactions, Linus Donovan nearly went round through turn 4, really hustling the car through there. But yeah, once again, the rain just getting too heavy. The track really now starting to become greasy. And just as you said earlier on, Ben, when that rubber that's already been laid down starts to get a little bit wet, it becomes an oil slick and you go straight on into corners or drop it on corner exit. That's why in the rain you like to brake in the middle of the road and take the outside line to try and get away from that racing line, because that is the trickiest part and the slickest part of the circuit, so you will end up just going straight on at the corner. But everyone now coming into the pit lane. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a mass retirement from a few drivers. Liat So heading up to the line. Has he surprisingly found some lap time? No, he's not. 7 tenths down on the lap, and Yannick Schmidt is the first one to throw in the towel. The pole position man so far has decided it will not get quick enough, and he has retired in the pit lane.
Well, you can see he's retired. He's felt the confidence, and he's seen the writing on the wall for many of the drivers here. You have some who are still going to try a bit more, who are going to commit a bit further, but you see Sprogis retiring, Stevens retiring. I think this is the start of a mass retirement, and with 4 minutes to go, some might just stay in the lobby, but it's certainly a signal to the rest of the field. We are not going to be seeing any more time improvements while these conditions persist. We're on board with Leto, for instance, and he is not getting that time gain. And I think at this point, to argue, he's just having a little bit of fun. We do have a last-minute addition, however, as we just saw Reyes Imtiaz pop onto the scene.
Yes, we have seen Reyes Imtiaz join the lobby. And on my end, it says we have 2 Luca Rapasses. So yeah, I don't know if that's a glitch on my... That's probably a glitch on my end. But yeah, a lot of these drivers now coming into the pit lane, and most of them are going to start to retire. But yes, nice to see Reyes Imtiaz into the lobby. And we'll see what he can do from the back of the grid. Because even if he set a lap time now, it will not be quick enough to get himself off that back row of the grid. So as this rain carries on, chucking itself down onto the circuit, we'll see more drivers just sitting in the pit lane, retire, or just go out for some fun little outlaps with nothing to lose, like Danny Van Rooten as he heads into turn 12. But crucially for Yannick Schmidt, he's one of those drivers that needed to capitalise off Jan Halliday's no-show here this evening, and he's done just that, onto pole position. Of course, he won last time out in the Netherlands, so to back it up with a pole position, he's on a roll of form over these past 2 races so far.
The absence of the king is the foundation of the uprising, and Schmidt is going to be the one to take full advantage. We have, of course, multiple retirements around the field. Imtiaz retiring as well, having just joined, but it confirms that he will be able to join the grid for the full core race as intended. Many more are retiring out. I think Van Rooyen is just trying to get a little bit of a feel of what will become the wet racing line, should that be applicable. And despite still being on the slicks, I'd still consider them faster than the inters at this stage, because we don't see any surface water. Of course, that may be my graphic settings. However, we're not seeing any sort of accumulation of moisture on the track surface. So maybe he's just trying to feel out the dry line, or just have a little bit of fun before the session ends. Doesn't really see the point in a retirement, but many other drivers are going to be pushing out all the same. So there might be something still here, even if the qualifying order is all but decided.
Yeah, there could still be some things to gain from this because you never know. Of course, the threat of rain always high around Hungary. Like we have seen in this qualifying session, some of these drivers could be getting key intel just in case the race might have a little bit of rain involved. And that would be a good amount of knowledge to have to see how the car acts over the wet parts of the circuit, sorry. And for 16 Lionheart, he's on the intermediate, so it'll be a good taster to see what the car will feel like on those tyres as well. So yeah, some big knowledge could be found in this last, I would say, 2 minutes and 30 of this session. And drivers got to be using this to the best of their abilities and just to have a little bit of fun as well. Of course, no one going to be dropping any times. So if you want to go for a Ken Block style drift session, you certainly can. So there's drivers already on their laps. I think it is going to be Danny Van Rooten who is furthest round, heading through the middle sector now. He's half a second down in the first sector, but he's just trying to get some knowledge in, understand the car, and just get used to these conditions, just in case it happens in the Grand Prix.
Well, still could be a form of, as you say, reconnaissance run. You could look at things like your tyre degradation, your fuel burn, how the rears in this condition where compared to your fronts. It's all valuable information, and this could be something that comes in mightily handy should the race strategy change on a dime. The weather is unpredictable, to put it in the nicest way. And while that can, of course, make the races exciting and spicy, it can also be a nightmare for drivers who come in with a preconceived strategy, who don't really plan for outside of that scope, and are suddenly left hanging out to dry. And they sort of get caught with their pants down by the rest of the field, in a way.
Yeah, they really do, because once you have that set strategy and say if a little bit of rain does come, you then somewhat panic, and you don't know what to do with the strategy front. And if you're leading that train, for example, you don't know when to come in, and everyone else can get that one lap jump on you, get that grip difference, and ultimately make you fall all the way down the order. So yeah, having these reconnaissance laps as well to just make sure you understand what the car does, the nature of the circuit, nature of the tyres in these conditions, really does play a big factor, as that is now qualifying over. Yannick Schmidt is your pole man, and as I said, those first laps were so crucial, and that certainly was. Those first laps did set the grid, and for Schmidt, it is delight. One lap, one opportunity, and he just does it like that.
And there you go. That is order, with Schmidt, Sprogis taking front row, Bieda and Rapasa on row 2, followed by Lund and Leotoad on row 3, Kokini and Stevens on row 4, and then Zorzo and Torquay rounding off your top 10, followed closely by Donovan, Hitala, Reuten, Lute, Presican, Linhart, Ertz, Longe, Marquardt, and Rez Imetiaz, not setting times between them. So that will be where we draw things for the time being. And I gotta say, it was a pretty good qualifying session in those first 2 laps, because everyone was just going for that mad dash, that quick run out there. They knew that the race was going to hang in the balance on this one. And for a lot of them, while they didn't necessarily predict the rain coming in to the point where the lap would have been compromised, they certainly read the fact that whatever happens, I just need a lap, and I just need it now. And Schmidt absolutely smashed it. Best sector time, sector 2 and 3, only slightly outdone by the Alpine in 3rd place.
Yeah, it really was by Schmidt. Really just, I've got this one opportunity, let's just utilize it to the best I possibly can, and it was just brilliantly executed from Yannick Schmidt in the Williams. And now we get to see what the drivers do over a full race distance and over quite a few laps. I did just see that the lobby we would have had after, if there was no restart, we would have had a wet race then as well. Maybe just enough for the slick tyres too, so that would have been interesting to see. But yeah, for Schmidt, it was really just one and done. Do it exactly how you want me to, and I'll show you that I am capable of performing under pressure, and just carrying on where he left off in the Netherlands. And a brilliant lap as well from Sprogis. He was a bit further back than Schmidt on the circuit, so it would have been a little bit more greasier for him, and he was able to put it about half a tenth behind. So for Sprogis and Schmidt, it was 2 really great laps in very tricky conditions.
And don't forget as well, folks, what the kind of stakes are. This is going to be massive. A good performance from Schmidt here could catapult him up into second in the standings. Same goes with many of the others who are in the sort of middle place. So Van Ruyten, 4th in the championship, 13th coming out in qualifying, for example. You have Leotoad, who is another driver to watch for sure, because he's been in a good spot championship-wise, and he's going to convert that even more potentially. But then eyes are going to be on Schmidt here as the top dog here, coming out of qualifying and heading into the Hungarian Grand Prix. We're going to take a short break, folks. We're going to take a short intermission to get the lobby set back up and to get everything ready to go. But in that time, you'll hear from just a couple of the great teams over at Grid Finder and Next Level Racing who support and make WR as we know it possible. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. A reminder of the season up ahead. Of course, we have reached and crossed the halfway point now, and we're here for round 6 here in Hungary. But don't forget, after the festive break, we have a stacked January for you all. It's a quadruple header, starting with China, then heading to Canada, Austria, and finishing off at Brazil. So an exciting second half of the season ahead. And of course, before we switch over to the standings and we talk about what is going to go down here, of course, support the folks over at Grid Finder and Next Level Racing. We're happy to have them as sponsors for WOR, and they, of course, help us make WOR as we know it possible. But look to the standings, and we see a familiar fight. Now, Schmidt, 5th place, first last race, and first here in qualifying. I think we are seeing the start of some serious momentum here, because Schmidt is a driver who, on his day, has some serious pace.
Yeah, 100%. He's certainly a driver that can deliver when all the cards fall right for him. And the momentum is certainly within his hands. In a tricky qualifying session, very tricky conditions, he did come out on top. So it shows that the pressure doesn't get to him either. And that win at the Netherlands wasn't just a lucky one-off victory. So for Schmidt, this is where it's so crucial to get these points over Halliday, slash that lead in half, and then really mount a challenge into that second part of the season. Of course, that break can also help drivers that may not be in the greatest of forms recently, like Keaton Lutt and Keanu Lieto, who both finished 16th and 11th respectively last time out in the Netherlands. So that's going to play a big part of things. And we have just loaded into the race session here, Ben. And just like qualifying, the heavens has decided to open up.
Oh, it's the 2nd to 5th drivers' races to lose. But of course, before we jump trackside, let us know who you want to see in that session. Coming out on top, and you can see there, that is indeed a rainy surface. It's carried over. Despite the lobby restart, the drivers have been blessed with the heavens opening and the rain coming down.
They certainly have, and they are all on slick tyres. So obviously, either the track's not wet enough for the intermediates, or we've had one of the many glitches on this game, which is unfortunate, because I know that was a glitch at the start of the game where it'd start you on slicks, even though it's good enough for the intermediates or the wets. So we'll have to wait and see, but drivers on these slick compounder tyres, it's going to be very treacherous into turn 1 with the greasy surface. It's a complete unknown on how the cars will feel, how the car will brake on these heavier fuel loads. And of course, with cold tyres as well, it's certainly going to throw up some surprises. And could we maybe see a Bottas 2021 at one point with someone going into the back of someone and deciding to do a little bit of bowling at the start of this Grand Prix?
Yeah, well, hopefully we see the racing and not the bowling part for things. But of course, you can never really know. And we will see in just a moment's time who is going to come out on top. I think these first 3 laps are going to be absolutely crucial. There's no two ways about it. The drivers are going to be nervous heading into that first corner. They're going to be very wary of their opponents and their surroundings. But above all, they are going to be tense, and they've got a lot of work to do. But it's 5 red lights, and the track is wet, but the track is hot here in Hungary. And we are away for round 6 of WOR. Immediately looking like a quick start, a quick run. Immediate run to the inside for Yannick Schmidt. Sprogis is going to be hard on the aggression and is going to be very much making his mark. That is the Aston Martin locking wheels. There's a wobble coming in from Schmidt. He's trying to keep it gripped up. It's just not happening. There's going to be Rapasa, the Ferrari, capitalizing, going around the side all the same. Lund is also peaking for looking for a chance. He's on the soft tires. He's going for that early gun and early run to see whether there is a window of opportunity available. He's going to get the spot on Rapasa nearly, but is definitely going to get a run on that Williams. He's been demoted to 4th. It's not a great start for him, and Sprogis is going to get the elbows out to take early.
Monstrous race start there from Yannick Schmidt, and this is where the drivers who are going through the later stages of that qualifying session on those slick tyres will have that upper hand. They'll know how the car feels. through these sort of conditions as Larry Tulkey able to get past Kokeni, and Rutan trying to go side by side with Donovan. There's a big slide on the exit at turn 11. The RB just about keeping the car in a straight line, but further up, Rapasa keeping Sprogis company. He is really trying to put some pressure on this Aston Martin in front. Just look how tricky it is for these drivers to get the power down. They're sliding all over. Stevens in, Tulkey in, Kokeni in, many drivers coming into the pit lane, surely for the intermediate compounded tyre here. So, as we see, yes, many drivers now, as I see the pit teams running out, the pit crews putting on the intermediates. The driver to look out for in this train so far will be Liam Stevens. He is the driver furthest round on that green wall tyre, so let's see if he can make any impact, or is it just a little bit too dry? Will those intermediates overheat at this stage of the Grand Prix? It's at that crossover point indeed, but at the minute, I still feel like it's within the hands of those slick tyre runners. Now, it's just a game of wait and see, but Stevens already taking a 10th out of Justin in front. Only heading through turns 2, now through 3. They're finding a bunch of time here on the intermediate, so this call could have been oh so crucial.
I think this is the call that they needed to make ASAP, and I think a right one, if you want me to be bluntly honest on this, because Stevens is going to have a more stable platform heading into the rest of this race. The rain isn't going to be stopping anytime soon, at least according to some of the readouts that I've got here in the box. So getting on that more stable platform, even if it might be slower to start with, could be crucial here. Notice how there is no DRS. The race control team have not called the DRS, and you now see a lot of the leaders making that same judgment call, heading onto the pits all the same. Leo Lund going for a cheeky overtake attempt in the pits. I gotta say, that is a move, that is a choice, but now we have a very different story unfolding on track, as it's a mad dash for the intermediate tyre. You have 3 drivers who remain stalwart and stay out there. It's Sprogis, Latoad, and Imtiaz. But the 2 Mercedes, that's going to be a double stack problem waiting to happen. I'm calling it now. But Stevens with a great run. The earlier lap call is going to slingshot him ahead of Rapasa and Lund to take the proverbial lead of the race.
What a crucial decision that was from Liam Stevens under all that pressure in the mid-pack. Many cars around him. He went for the gamble, and it's worked in his favour. He's ahead of Luca Rapasa, and for Sprogis, Lieto and Imtiaz, it is surely going to be disaster for them as they'll fall to the back of this field. I'm surprised Lieto didn't come into the pit lane knowing he was the lead of the 2 Mercedes drivers. And for Sprogis, he was just left out to dry. He got left to hang out there and just stay for a little bit longer, of course. He was the first driver around, so he doesn't have the opportunity to do what he doesn't do. And for Sprogis, unfortunately, this is going to demote him all the way down, surely, to around about 15th, 16th place at the very least. But for Liam Stevens, he now leads the way from Luca Rapasa, who will do what he did to Sprogis on the opening 2 laps of this Grand Prix and try put him under as much pressure as possible. But just look at the difference in purchase these guys now have on those fresh intermediate tyres. They can just put the foot down so much more earlier. The rear of the car not sliding out at all. And here comes the Scuderia Ferrari to that inside line. Out comes Sprogis in all of this. He hasn't lost anywhere near as much time as I thought he would, as he's able to get in front of Laurie Tulkey. Liam Stevens also getting passed by Leo Lund as they head down into turn 1. Will Schmidt look for a move into turn 2? No, he will not. But Luca Rapasa, now your net race leader, he's got that clean air to break away into. He's nearly half a second clear of Leo Lund as we head up into turn 4 on lap 4. What is going to happen over the next few laps? Of course, DRS is still crucially enabled in this Grand Prix.
Well, it's going to be a wild matchup, that is for sure, because there is going to be 2 key factors that decide a lot of this order. There's going to be 1 who can hold their nerve over the course of this distance, and it's 2 going to be how they can manage the pace of one another as well as themselves. If there is a wild card I had to add to that pile, though, it's got to be the Mercedes. I think they have made a strategic blunder here because they're both still on the medium tyre. And look at the time that Rapasa has been able to eat away. They've already chipped that down to about 7.5 seconds, and yet they still remain committed to the slick tyre. Is this some kind of long play that they are trying to see through by burning some slick tyres as much as they can viably run? Or is this just a refusal to yield because they have track position? Hopefully, we can see that come into fruition in the second half of the race, but right now, it's not looking good.
No, it's certainly not. I think this could really be just a play of them knowing that they've lost all that time, so they're just going to try and risk those mediums for a little bit longer and hope this rain does stop, because they've got nothing to lose at this point, and Rapasa is really charging those two silver arrows down. So as we head out of turn 5, that gap between Tulki and Sproggets around about 1 second, so the top 5 in this Grand Prix really have started to break away ever so slightly. As I say, remember, DRS is still enabled, so that will be a big mix for the drivers. Intermediates with DRS, not very often you see that combination, and that could also cause a little bit of upsets as well. The rain does seem to be lightening ever so often through this race, and so far on that 5 of 35, it's still a very long Grand Prix. It's very tiring as well mentally, just due to how many corners come at you in such quick succession, especially through that middle sector. We'll see how the drivers do face this one. So as we exit out of the final corner, Lund with the DRS open on Rapasa in front. Is he going to get close enough for a lunge to the inside? No, it doesn't seem so, but Sproggis looking to the outside of Yannick Schmidt, the Aston Martin, trying to go the long way around the Williams driver. Of course, the optimum line in the wet is that outside line, but Sproggis just having to yield position so far. Now going to the outside of turn 2. This is going to allow Schmidt just to run him out of road, though, get those elbows out, and the Williams driver holds position for now, but they don't want to fight too much because they are just losing touching distance to Liam Stevens as they head through turns 1 and 2, and now up through turn 4. Stevens also dropping a little bit further back from Lund as well. A big factor here is, for the intermediates too, is that they could overheat in these mixed conditions because the track isn't really wet enough to cool them down. So that could be another thing we see. If drivers push their tyres a little bit too hard, they'll start to overheat, and that's why we start to see those mistakes form.
Well, we have the operating window of those inters being much lower than that of a traditional slick. So where you see 100 or 105 degrees, that is the serious danger zone for these types of compounds. And it's the type of timings that we are starting to see Rapasa touch base with, at least on the rear axle. So he's got to be careful in managing those temps. Like you said, there isn't enough water. The standing water on the track is not enough to cool these compounds down as they are displacing it across the track. And not to mention the dry line forming means that there's less water to dissipate that heat. So drivers might actually take a detour off of the ideal racing line just to cool those tires by a crucial few degrees that might see them through the next complex. As we're seeing here with Rapasa now overtaking through the pit lane as Reyes Imtiaz is going to come in and be dropped out at the bottom, leaving just Keanu Lito 4 seconds, but rapidly dropping to the Ferrari.
Yep, he really is starting to bleed so much time to Rapasa behind, and Imtiaz just is the reality check that Lito needed to see, is that if he comes in now, he'll be with his teammate nearly 8 seconds off the back of Linus Donovan. He's constantly losing that time through this middle sector. Of course, if it was a bit wetter, the intermediates will be gaining a little bit more than they already are, but they're still fighting about a 1/10 of a second through every corner around this Hungaro ring. And we'll see as they get ever so closer through these final few corners. Will Keanu decide to come into the pit lane? No, elects to stay out once again. He's really trying to use these mediums for as long as possible and maybe become more of a moving chicane. The Rapasa and Lund have broken that 1 second margin over Liam Stevens as Yannick Schmidt now decides to go to the inside line. I think that was a somewhat choreographed move between those two drivers, and Sproggis through as well on Stevens. Stevens did give a little weave down that main straight to say, we do not fight this one, we try gain back to that top 2 in front of us. But now we see, what does the medium run of Keanu Lito do to this squabble between Rapasa and Lund? Will he be a bit of a nuisance to the Scuderia Ferrari, or will Rapasa just be able to breeze by him as we now head out of turn 5? We're going into a tight and twisty part of the circuit, so for Rapasa, this really could be a bit of a nuisance, and that could bring Yannick Schmidt, Sproggis and Stevens back into play.
The Russo Red Cruise missile rapidly approaches the back of the Mercedes right now, and is, in fact, going to make quick work of it. He sees the moving chicane. He wants nothing to do with it. He's going to fire it down through into the second sector. Here we see Leo Lund looking for much of the same as he peeks to the inside, hoping to get him on the braking distance. Just does that. And then the two of them are already up ahead, so not quite a plan that worked out in Lito's favor, and surely this is the signal, but he is going to remain committed on that compound. He's kicking the tail out. I have to wonder, what's this game here? I'm really struggling to read what Lito's plan is. You even saw his teammates, despite being a P20, now on the Inters, could have a viable advantage here, but Lito's really struggling. I have to just grin and hope that there is a salvation strategy. He's maybe trying to cut out an extra stop later on. But is it worth this?
I have no idea if this is going to be worth it or not. Yes, the rain will stop, but will he be already too far behind the rest of the field to really capitalise on staying out on these medium compounded tyres? So, yeah, it's a really risky strategy here from the Mercedes driver. It can either be a very, very high risk, high reward strategy, or he could not get that reward at all. And for Keanu Lieto, he is now bleeding time to Zalan Bida behind, and Laurie Tulki as well. Liam Stevens has dropped off the back of Rihard Sprogis, so we now have 4 cars squabbling it out at the front of the field. Just due to the nature of this circuit, you try find time down that main straight, you do find it, and then through the middle sector with that dirty air and the way the car's just not handling it well in these wet conditions, you just lose it through the middle and final sectors. So you're not really able to mount a challenge into those first few corners. I say that, Rihard Sprogis all over the back of Yannick Schmidt, and look how aggressive they go to the inside to just try and find any piece of standing water to cool down these tyres. Zalan Bida able to get past Keanu Lieto. So with that move down the main straight from all 4 of those top 4 drivers, we are seeing that the intermediates are slightly starting to bake a little, and the overheating has certainly begun.
Core temps are what these drivers are want to keeping an eye on. As the surface temps, you're going to be stretching them out, and they're going to cool just as quickly with some of the surface water. But you see Sprogis and Schmidt, they are refusing to let such a thing as tyre temps keep them down. They're going to go side by side. That's going to be all the way through, hiding up into the chicane. A bit of a wobble, bit of a tyre catch. The Aston Martin getting the elbows out once again. We saw it once, we saw it twice now between these two. And Sprogis, once again, is going to take the dominant position out of this fight. So both of them are going to be coming into this next segment of the race with a bit of fire in their belly and a bit of a score to settle. But Sprogis trying his best now to just catch up to the 2 in front. I have an interesting thought, though, as we see a big shift up in positions a little bit lower down the grid. And many drivers, in fact, arcing quite wide. That is going to be Zorzo struggling to keep the car gripped up. I think Peresican heading into the pits. Yes, he is. Maybe he's got a little bit of damage along with Van Ruiten and Marquardt. So there might be a strategic shift here. But when do you think the rain will stop? If it's set to stop, when will it?
If it's set to stop, I feel like it will do it around about lap 25. But
Peresican's on hard.
I think we might be seeing different. As Mark told Preskin, a completely different story, or was that a mistake in switching to those intermediates on the MFD? We're going to have to see now as we head through these next few laps. The rain is certainly getting lighter. It's a lot lighter than it was at the start of this Grand Prix. So this is where it really does start to get confusing. I would assume it's around lap 20-25 where we'll see the rain really come to a big halt in this Grand Prix, but it could come sooner than we think, especially with that gamble on the hard tyres from Prezican, and that really could be a race-winning move if he's able to get those hards up to temperature by the time the rain stops, use that grip that he needs, and just push on through the field. Lieto has only dropped to 7th place as well. He's not dropped as much as I thought he would have, as Prescan lets through Van Ruiten with a big slide out of 6 and 7. But into the pit lane now, Yannick Schmidt as well, and Liam Stevens. Slick back into the hands of the likes of Lieto, who has done well to defend from the likes of Keeden up behind, and many drivers now into the pit lane. So is the rain going to stop very shortly?
Well, it looks like a lot of them are actually switching on to fresh inters again, so maybe feeling that they are starting to go. I'm quite curious as to what the game plan is, but we are seeing a couple also switch onto the hards. So I think this is a tale of two strategies. You have the slick runners, the likes of Pressican, Van Ruyten, actually no, Van Ruyten, I misread that, Linhart, and also Liam Stevens heading out onto a slick compound in the hopes that the dry line that's been developed will be enough to sustain those tyres until the rain stops. And then he's effectively saved himself a pit stop. If they can get this execute, this could completely flip the narrative of this race on its head. And even then, you look a little bit further up, we see the inters starting to, as you say, bake and start to waver a little bit in terms of grip. Lieto's not exactly losing pace anymore. He's on the back of Kokeni, and he's keeping within that 3/10 margin.
He certainly is, and this rain is really starting to yield a little bit here. It's starting to really dry up in this Grand Prix, and Ray's Imtiaz able to get past Justin Hurts with easy work. Now, this is a big, big pit stop. Rapasa in. What is it for? Fresh intermediates or hards? It's fresh inters. Oh, that is a very big call there from the Scuderia Ferrari driver. And is that going to be enough to keep him in this race? Keanu Lieto's in as well. He's gone onto hards. Kokeni onto hards. It really is a tale of two strategies here. At the minute, the Inter's looking like the right call. But if you have to make that extra pit stop here, Ben, because those Inters only lasted around about 10, 11 laps, you got to make another pit stop, and then you still got to hunt down those hard runners once again. And by that time, it certainly could be the dry line as the favoured line.
I think they're hoping that the aggressive track surface means the hard runners, while technically making it to the end, will struggle in terms of pace, and that's when they can get a last-minute lapping up of positions. That's, I think, the longer-term goal here, but of course we'll see how the likes of Stevens and even further back Preskin, Linhart, etc. handled this. I think there's been a little bit of a mistake on the tyre choice, as Justin Ertz has gone onto the extreme wet tyres, and I don't think that's intentional because you can already see him wobbling. I think he's going to come in next lap for an immediate swap back, but Sprogis, despite being on those older tyres still, is refusing to yield any kind of fight. And in fact, he's putting some serious pressure down on Leo Lund. Though even with the DRS, the difference is minimal, because I think he's just struggling to put that said power down.
Yeah, it really is. Those intermediates really are starting to overheat. That's why everybody else came in for a fresh pair, because they'll be cooler. They'll be now in a good window, as here comes Rapasa on Yannick Schmidt. Really nice move to the inside there from Rapasa, and he's going to have the DRS on the exit of turn 1 to just cement that position into the next braking zone, as Marquardt also able to now go side by side with Van Ruyten, who's now on the outside of him. The Williams driver holding this one without the DRS. He's going to try be on the outside here as Marquardt. Lot now trying to get involved and pick up a few scraps from this squabble. He's going to have the run out of turn 3. Are we going to see what Sprogis did only a few laps ago? No, gets shown the door by the Red Bull in front as Van Ruyten runs a little bit wide. That's allowing Marquardt to the outside line this time around. Lut now trying to sneak his way back to the inside of the Red Bull. It's 3 drivers squabbling tooth, and now there's contact between Lutz and Van Ruyten. Marquardt has to cut the chicane. Lutz still round the outside now through turn 8, and unfortunately not able to get by the Red Bull, and that's allowing Lari Tulki to catch up to these squabbling cars as Rapassa's now past Imtiaz through turn 12. Those fresh intermediates are working wonders at this stage of the Grand Prix. Liam Stevens hasn't dropped off too far from Zalan Bida either, so this really is all about those difference in tyres. Can you heat the tyres up enough? What are Sprogis and London for? Sprogis for the hards, Lund for the hards. This is now getting extremely interesting, and is it going to stop raining soon?
Well, see what the drivers do, and it tends to be a bit of a read forward into the future of what they expect. So I think we're going to see within the next few laps, the drivers start to see the conditions dry up a little bit. I am getting a bit of telemetry data that suggests within the next 10 minutes, things will start to dry up again. We will have to await and eagerly we'll see what these drivers do. Sprogus immediately putting pressure down on Stevens. So on those hards, of course, now it's slick v slick, equal footing, and the drivers are just trying to find those limits at this point with Sprogus. You can see big kick on the rear end of the car, as Presican is going to be our first to get a track limits warning. Leo Lund up ahead on the hard tyre with the other two, and then Rapasa 2 laps on the Inters. But we'll see how long he can hold that lead for, as Schmidt is most likely going to try and close in as soon as he can.
Yep, he certainly will. Schmidt's been hanging on well over the past lap or so. With that DRS, was able to dispatch Imtiaz into turn 1. Wasn't held up too much by the Mercedes. As there comes Imtiaz into the pit lane. Is that going to be for a set of that hard white-walled compounded tyre? We'll have to wait and see as he now slowly trundles his way down the pit lane. Rapasa and Schmidt up in front. No move being made by the Williams driver so far. Is Stevens going to get close enough for a move? Sprogus is going to get in close enough for a move on Stevens. Forces the RB to break late, nearly into the back of the Haas driver, but Sprogus just going a little bit wide with that understeer. Just that whitewash from the greasy surface just allowed Stevens to stay ahead, because there was a little bit of contact that caused Sprogus to get that car unsettled through turn 1, and the Aston Martin has to sit behind, but now he's coming under pressure from Danny Van Rooten, Marquardt and Luck behind. So we'll see, are the intermediate runners able to dispatch the hard tyre runners very easily or not? Sprogus with another big slide out of turn 5, but with that crucial information, about 10 minutes till that rain stops, so around about lap 25, we'll see this rain stopping. That is all these hard runners want to hear, is that rain will stop. Everybody in front of them will have to make another pit stop onto the slicks, and then they will be in the driver's seat for this race victory. We're going to have to wait and see, of course. Lap 16 of 35, still a very long way to go. Not even half distance yet, and it's been chaotic all the way through so far.
Well, looking at the racers and we're looking at where they currently stand, the hard runners in 4th, 5th and 6th are just praying for the rain to stop coming down. They really are looking for the long play. They're looking for the rain to stop, and they're looking to save that, I'd say, about 20 seconds worth of valuable time when it comes to the pit lane, as we've seen the kind of time differentials that can be pulled out. And unfortunately, Justin, you can see him down at the bottom, about 17 seconds adrift of even Rez Imtiaz there, who was up at the front. So about 20 to 25 seconds, I'd say, is more accurate. They want to save that kind of time, and if it means burning a bit of time now, having a bit of a wobble, and maybe conceding a couple of places even to those on Inters right now, it will be worth it when they go in. They don't have to in the hard compound, and we can see them catapult up the field. Same with the likes of Lindhart, Presican, Leto, Donovan, etc. They have the chance to really make this one work, but they have to have the weather on their side to do it.
Yeah, they certainly do. It's a short-term loss for a long-term gain for these drivers on the hards if it does stop raining when the game says it's supposed to. So, for Leo Lund, he's actually been keeping good pace here with Zalan Bida up in front. I'm not sure if the intermediates are starting to burn from the Alpine. He's actually coming into the pit lane, is Zalan Bida, and there is actually on board of him quite a bit of wear on those front tyres, especially that front right for the Alpine. So that overheating not helping him at all. So now let's keep an eye on that gap between Lund and Schmidt, because that's really the gap between the hard runners and the race lead. So if that starts to come down, we know those hard tyres are the ones you want to be on. As here, Teller was able to get past Laurie Tulke into turn 1. Is there any more moves being made throughout this field into the first few corners? It doesn't seem so just yet, but Zalan Vida did go on to the hard compounded tyres. So that's our first driver who is on the intermediates to switch. Will we see the rest follow? And for Leo Lund, he's not actually dropping time to the intermediates up in front, so they're about even so far. With that rain getting slower, we could maybe see the Haas driver within the next few laps start to slowly, and I mean very slowly, eat away at that gap at the front.
You're quite right that the gap between Schmidt and Lund is very much going to be our litmus test. It's going to be our measure of who is running better right now. And this can both be in an individual driver sense, because don't forget Rapasa and Schmidt are sharing the track space, and in fact are both going to be heading in They are making that judgment call now, so this is going to be the true check now. Lund, Stevens, Sprogis all making their way round. The rain is still coming down, but it is a stop impending. Rapasa onto hard compound. Schmidt, what's he going to do? He's going to also jump on to the white walls to see it through to the end. This is going to be that paradigm shift we were so desperately talking about. They're still wobbling on those white walls, but most of the field is back to slick. We will see that trend only continue as the laps press on, the rain eases, and the drivers start to really get some grip back. The temperatures are still going to be low, but the rain not coming down, the dry line forming, means that they can properly adhere to the track surface once again.
Yeah, they certainly can, and those hards really are seeming to be the ones you want to be on. Because Luca Rapasa on those fresh hards really getting close to Diego Zorzo up in front. Unfortunately, Justin Ertz, after that unfortunate mishap with the tyre change, has come into the pit lane to retire. So a lot of work on Rapasa and Schmidt's hands to see if they can make their way up through the field. But with Leo Lund, Stevens and Sprogis now starting the breakaway from Keaton up behind, they really have the race in their hands. Of course, we still will have around about 15 laps to go once we cross the start-finish line. But the hard tyre certainly now the one at play. The masterstroke has happened from the likes of Sprogis, Stevens and Lund to really promote themselves up the order, and this will also put Lionheart up into 4th place. So a brilliant drive from the Alpine driver who started all the way down in 16th place. So it was a worthy gamble for the Alpine man as Rapasa now able to get past Zorzo into turn 1. We got nearly 3 wide further back with Schmidt, Imtiaz, and also that was Tudor Prescan through turns 1 and now into 2. A big slide from the McLaren driver, that Papaya car, not liking the rear grip at all. But with Zorzo and Longue now the only 2 drivers to be out on those intermediates, he will surely see him in within the next few laps. But Rapasa now putting 16 Lionheart under some pressure here, and we're seeing them catch up to Matteo Longue in front as well.
Oh, I think it's a race against time here because we're already seeing visually some of the rain start to ease away and it become a little bit less aggressive as the session rages on. Zorzo is going to be sacrificing position to Schmidt, or is he? You can see big wobble as they go side by side heading through that second sector. And Zorzo is dropping like a stone. Presican even is going to be putting on some serious pressure towards the end of Sector 2 and then heading up into turn 12. He's going to have the inside line. He's going to jump a bit more aggressively on those brakes. And that is going to be what seals it. I think that's the signal, if he's ever had one, that Zorzo needs to head into the pits. He needs to join the cohort on the slicks, and he's going to do just that, along with Longue, meaning everyone will now be on to the slick. But the question is, what compound will they pick? Will they match hard, or are they further up into the race to the point where they will try something different? It's going to be a hard run for Longue, and for Zorzo, it's going to be a medium. So he's going very aggressive on that tyre strategy. Remember how abrasive the surface is.
Yeah, that could be very risky from Zorzo. That could be the difference between him at least getting a top 10 result due to how far back they are, and him not scoring any points. Oh, and Lionheart with a huge slide through turn 4. How the Alpine driver has kept that in a straight line, I do not know. And crucially, the rain has stopped. So this track is just going to keep getting drier and drier as Tony Hiatella picks up a 3-second time penalty and 2 Papayas. The only drivers to pick up a 3-second time penalty in this Grand Prix. But now we're going to see the times get quicker and quicker. The grip is going to increase lap by lap, and it's going to be a complete unknown for the likes of Leo Lund, Liam Stevens and Sprogis as well. So keep an eye on that gap between Rapasa and Sprogis. Lund now with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Is anyone going to be able to change that? As down into turn 1, we could see a move from Sprogis on Liam Stevens. No, he is not able to pull that one off, but Rapasa is quicker than Lund that time around. Of course, he's going to keep getting those better track conditions as the drivers in front of him put down that tread, onto the circuit, and also make sure that dry line comes in even more. Zalambida able to get past Linus Donovan. Kokeni being overtaken by not only Marquardt, but Rutan as well. As to the inside goes to Williams on the on the Red Bull in all of this. Not able to get the move done into turn 1. Is he going to look for it into turn 2? No, but Marquardt just streaks a little bit wide, but Rutan not able to find a way through. But crucially, race going to come alive. The grip's going to keep getting better and better. It's all down to confidence now. Who is going to come out on top? And Rapasa is finding time on the top 3 wherever he looks.
Well, it's 22 out of 35, and the grid has officially started to wake up. It's dry conditions, and the change in demeanor between these laps have been aggressive and immediate. You can already see the confidence rushing back into these drivers' steering wheels, and how much they are pushing those cars is a sight to behold. We're seeing the fastest lap time drop rapidly. It's rocket ships really starting to be let off the leash. So grip limited previously, and so limited by the amount of mechanical stick they have onto the track. Now that factor is all but removed. They can push, they can drive as hard as those little white wall tires can take them, because now the grip is back. And so is the major charge from many of the racers. Zorzo is going to get a 117.5, so he's going to leverage those mediums while he has them. But eyes on the top 3, as now we will start seeing some proper wheel-to-wheel combat.
Yeah, we certainly will. Of course, crucially for Rapasa, even though he's finding time, he does have that tyre delta. Of course, 4 laps is the difference between Sprogis and Lund's tyres compared to Luca Rapasa. So that's also a key factor to why he's finding some grip and a bit more grip and a bit more time, is that he does have those tyres in the correct window, and he's still finding time on his previous lap time. He's already up by 0.6 of a second through that middle sector on his previous lap, and he's found about 4 tenths over Rihard Sprogis so far. So DRS open once again as we head down this main straight for that top 3. Is Stevens going to go for a move? No. Just going to sit behind Lund for now. A 17.2 from Rapasa. That's the new fastest lap. Instantly beaten with a 16.8 from Yannick Schmidt. So he's another driver we're going to have to look out for as well. Not only lapping faster than the top 3, but lapping faster than the driver in front as well, Luca Rapasa. So we could have 2 cars hunting down the top 3 in this race. But of course, with only 12 laps to go, it's going to be extremely difficult to do, because it's only mere attempts that these 2 cars behind this top 3 are gaining by. And this is going to be all about commitment, all about just straggling everything out of those tyres, out of the car. And that, for Luca Rapasa and Yannick Schmidt, is going to be make or break for this race victory, as Theo Lund starting to break away from Stevens. So have those hard tyres that are only 12 laps old starting to hit the cliff already.
Well, this is going to be about convergence. You're going to see the time drop between Sprogis and Rapasa, but is it going to be enough of a drop to where we get to lap 33 or 34 and he's within a second? Because that's going to be what matters here. If he can get within a second by lap 35, it's all lost, because you can't get past in that amount of time. Lund is going to push the boat out and really try and go aggressive to keep that distance, leverage that speed, but Rapasa's having none of it. It's another fastest lap. Schmidt is going to go one better with a 16.1. So the pace is climbing even higher and higher as this session progresses. And Rapasa, with about 10 laps to go of driving, has really got to make up about a quarter of a second each time. Otherwise, he will not have that proximity enough. He's done very well through Sector 1. We're seeing those couple of tenths, and we're seeing him chip away. Short of a major mistake or some fighting happening at the top 3, it's going to be close. It might be a bit too slim of a window.
It might just be a little bit too late for Luca Rapasa. That gap just too big to reel in. And of course, with this top 3, well, of course, Stevens and Sprogis having that DRS behind Leo Lund, it's just allowing them to stretch their legs. So what Rapasa does find does then get instantly taken away down that main straightness to find it all back again through the next lap, plus more. And that's what he's been doing so far. But really, that is keeping Sprogis and Stevens at a good pace so far. 16.6 from Sprogis on that last lap. What's it going to be for Luca Rapassa? That shows how much he's gaining. A 16.2, so around about 4/10. Luca Rapassa is finding to Rihard Sprogis. Yannick Schmidt wasn't as quick that time around. We saw him have a lot of confidence over those past 2 laps. As Keanu Liato able to get past Leinhardt, and Zalambida able to get past Tudor Prescan. And there goes Reyes Imtiaz with a super late lunge to the inside line. There, a dive bomb from the Mercedes driver, not able to get it done, but it was executed very cleanly into that first corner as Longue has decided to retire in the pit lane, and Danny Van Rooten versus Linus Donovan and Joel Marquardt here, and that's a brilliant switchback from the Mercedes driver on Marquardt, and that was really well executed. Just let the Red Bull driver go a bit hot on the brakes and then get that cut underneath, get the drive that he needed, and keep that 11th place. But they're 4 seconds behind that final points paying position of Reyes Imtiaz, who's trying now to squabble his way past, and Rooten has just got a little bit wide. That's Marquardt wide as well. Donovan ghosting in all of this too, so he must make contact with Hietala, and it really is all kicking off in the mid-pack here. Unfortunately, though, they're fighting this hard, but it's not over any points.
Yeah, so pandemonium in the bottom half of the grid, but it is all for naught, ultimately, as you stated. So, with even a couple of retirements, they are going to be losing some serious time. They've already dropped a second to Imtiaz just over the span of this segment. The time is of the essence here, and it's time that they can't afford to burn. You can see them flurrying around that final corner to get any kind of attack on their opponents, but it doesn't look like we are going to see any major moves just yet from the top. We see a squabble continue to rage on. It's going to be Van Rooten, it's going to be Donovan. Tulki with a great double sweep. Is he going to confirm it? Through turns 2 and 3, bit of contact as Hietala and Donovan continue to put that pressure down, and it is a seriously heated matchup.
It really is. Keaton Lott, of course, the man second in the standings, having a horrid time of things so far this evening, squabbling over 15 plays, able to get past Linus Donovan there, and that gap up at the top down to 5.7, and Marquardt with a huge slide out of turn 7, lucky to keep that one out of the wall. Just took too much curb through turn 7, and that sent the car. It really just unbalanced it completely on the rear, and he nearly went straight into the wall. Lucky to keep that one facing in the right direction. And for the Red Bull man, lucky to see himself still in this squabble over 11th place. That gap now up in front, down to 5.9 seconds. And here we see Sprogis going to the outside of Stevens, forcing Stevens a little bit wide. He's going to get the run out to the corner. He's going to just switch back, try and get that cut. But again, not able to get past Stevens. Brilliant defending from the RB so far. Laurie Tulki able to get past Danny Van Rooten in all of this squabbling further back. But it's still side by side on corner exit. But a kick Sauber just having the DRS on the exit of turn 1 into turn 2, able to cement that position. But this squabbling for this top 3, it cannot carry on for much longer, because if they keep squabbling, that scarlet red Ferrari will be prancing up and galloping to the back of that British Racing Green Aston Martin. So they need to calm it down until those final few laps. That's when they can really start to squabble. So if Sprogis can't make another overtaking opportunity, he should just back off and just focus on the long run and not add another 2 cars to this party.
Well, I think in a sort of twist of irony, Sprogis, who we've discussed having gotten the elbows out on multiple occasions, needs to do the exact opposite. He needs to bide his time here. Let Stevens do the work. Let Stevens go aggressive on Lund here, and then capitalize off the mistakes rather than go hyper aggressive. We see Donovan. They are going to be out on. Is that on track there? It's hard to tell, as that is Zorzo's just missing out there. I think they did crash out, but we haven't seen a kind of safety car or any kind of safety measures be deployed. I think they were deemed outside the racing surface, so we're not going to be seeing any calls of that nature. Imagine if we got a safety car at this point. That would have been absolutely insane.
That would have been a real race-changing scenario and would throw everything up in the air. Surely the driver would go onto the soft compounded tyres with like a 3-lap dash we would have had come the end of this race. But unfortunately, for the likes of Rapassa, who may have thought the safety car was on for him, it has not come to his hands, and he really is in really finding any time and really dropping time to Yannick Schmidt behind. It was about 1.4 this time last lap. It's down to 1.3, so Schmidt absolutely loving life on these hard compound tyres so far. He is certainly the quickest driver on the track so far, and we're going to see the overtake this time around into turn 1. I think Sprogis is going for the move as well, and Stevens, no, he's just going to sit behind, but Yannick Schmidt able to get past Rapassa. So they head into that first corner, so the Williams driver now takes that 4th place away. Of course, the man who got pole position, backing up his race win last time around, still with a race win potentially on the cards here this evening, but he needs a big hustle to do so. So for the Williams man in this clean air now, he's really going to have to use everything that car is able to give him, and he's 3/10 up on his previous lap thanks to that DRS. He certainly is the quickest man on the circuit, but is it going to be enough to hunt down the 3 in front?
Well, I think with a second that he needs to gain each lap on average, I highly doubt that he's going to have the pace to make this one work, plus gain the positions, unless there's a major squabble, a major upset with those top 3, which they are showing time and time again. They're willing to push each other, but not too hard as to get themselves out of shape. I don't think it's going to be on the cards here for Schmidt tonight. I think the best that he can do is lock in that P4, get a second away from Rapassa, and leave him out to dry without DRS so that he can confirm those points paying positions. Because that is still going to be enough, I believe, to put him in that podium spot in the championship. And that's really the game that he's got to be playing here.
Yeah, it really is the game that Schmidt has to be playing. And oh, a little look there from Sprogis once again. It did actually look like he was going to go for a half-hearted move there as Van Rooten has come into the pit lane to retire. So that's a 4th retirement of the evening, unfortunately. And of course, 3 of them being in the pit lane, 1 of them being on track. Liam Stevens does seem to be holding up Sprogis. I see throughout the lap, he's about a 10th behind is the Aston Martin, and just pushing the RB through in a big rear locking moment, just touching the outside curb, unsettling the car on the brakes. And Sprogis, again, lucky to keep that car in a straight line. It really is now just a high-speed game of chess between this top 3. Schmidt, that gap down now to 3.8, 3.7 seconds. He's really hustling to bring that down. I saw he had a huge moment last lap out at turn 13, just trying to get every last ounce of grip, every last ounce of momentum out of these corners. There's another few stabs at the steering wheel to keep the car in a straight line out of 13 once more. He really is trying to hustle his way to that top 3, 3.5 as we cross the start-finish line. We have 4 laps to go here in Hungary, and it really is starting to boil down to a race between, can Schmidt catch up, or will Sprogis be able to get that move down on Stevens to then attack Leo Lund?
Well, you can see Rapassa really tight to the back of that Williams there, even to the point where it looks like he was making contact for a split second, but he is not going to let that Williams get away so easily. We see the time being dropped, we see the time being lost, and I think this is where Schmidt needs to just calm down for a second. He's so focused on gaining that time, of trying to be a credible threat to the top 3, but at this stage, with 3.5 laps of driving left, I don't think that he needs to be focusing on that. He needs to be focusing on charging what he can, on getting his battery into that right place so that whatever Rapassa throws at him, he has an immediate counter to seal his points.
Yeah, that's exactly what Schmidt needs. He just needs that counter, just needs that little bit of a gap, which he is doing so far, about 5 to 6 tenths of a second out of turn 14. So just give him that run down into turn 1 and get that safety net over the Ferrari, because it's not going to be enough now to go for a move. And here comes Liam Stevens on Leo Lund, talking about moves. The RB making the decisive one to the inside, and Sprog is nearly going to the inside of Lund. Saw the opportunity open, saw the door was there, but unfortunately not able to fit his Aston Martin into that gap as Lund was cutting back across to try and get the drive underneath Stevens. But now the Haas driver, who's not been in that dirty air for so long, will have to adapt quickly, will have to manage with a little bit of less downforce on that Haas car. So there's a yellow flag in the final sector. That's for Diego Zorzo, who's made a mistake. He went for that gamble over Rapassa. 3-second time penalty. That changes everything for that race for 4th place. And unfortunately for Rapassa, better. The best he can get now is a top 5 finish.
Well, this has just taken a massive weight off of Schmidt's shoulders, because he knows that even if he gets overtaken on the track, he'll be able to retain that P4 all the same. So he can go full aggressive. He can start to be that forward push, and we've seen him embrace that almost immediately. Look at the smoke being kicked up. Look at the time dropping down. He's gone for it. And he has really gone all in on this play. He doesn't see it as having anything to lose. And he's hoping as well at the same time that these top three continue their squabbles, continue their fights to a more extreme depth and reel themselves back in. We see Lund, for instance, go to the inside on the defensive against Sprogis, who is very much trying and has had enough of that third place spot. You can see him sweep to the left, sweep to the right, look for any chance he can get. He wants that spot and he wants it bad, so he's waiting, and he's done with that now. He just needs to get by, and he is not going to hold back anymore.
No, he certainly is not. Sprogis really wants to get into the driving seat for this race victory here. Tell us it's the fastest lap of the Grand Prix after switching over to those soft compounded tyres. But unfortunately for Sprogis, I just don't think it'll be enough to try and get this race lead away from Stevens unless he's able to get that move done into turn 1 onto this final lap of the Grand Prix. It's a 3-man dash on this final lap of the Grand Prix. And will the Haas driver be able to get back past Liam Stevens, who made that move 2 laps ago, the decisive move, which could potentially be the race-winning one. They're going to use all their battery down this main straight. It's really the only opportunity for Leo Lund to try and get this move done on Stevens. You can see the RB trying to break the toe down this main straight. Here comes Lund to the inside line. He's gone for it. Is he going to be able to pull this one off? Stevens on the outside line will not have the DRS, but Lund will have to go the long way around now through turn 2. But a Haas driver just pulls in front before we reach that second braking zone, and he takes that race lead away. Of course, his only race so far this season was a DNF in the season opener in Texas. So for the 2 reserve drivers who are squabbling it out over a maiden race win this season, we are going to see who is going to come out on top. Now through chicane, it's all about who can hustle their car the most. Next and really final overtaking opportunity will be down into turn 12. So will Stevens get close enough? There's a 3-lap tyre delta difference between these 2 drivers, and that could be the make or break difference for Leo Lund here. Marquardt pick up a 3-second time penalty at the end of this Grand Prix. It's not looking like Stevens is going to get close enough for a move into turn 12. No, it is not. So for Leo Lund, if he's able to keep it clean through these next few corners, which he certainly is looking likely to, the Haas driver heading through turn 14 now. It was a DNF in the opening round of the season. The only race he's done is a complete change in fortune here in Hungary. He wins the Hungarian Grand Prix. The Haas driver comes out on top. Liam Stevens second. Riyad Sprogis in third. Yannick Schmidt ending up 1.9 seconds behind in the end. It was a valiant effort to try and bring that gap down. But for Leo Lund, the man with a huge contrast in fortune the last time he raced here in Tier 2, he wins. And crucially, that is what he needed, especially if he gets more performances like that so far in the next few races this season.
Well, that's the kind of spirit lift that he needs right now. He's done an immaculate job of controlling this race, of waiting until the final moment, as we saw with Stevens, let him hold it, and then set up the decisive blow with no counter-attack heading into the last lap. An immaculate job done from him there, and a 4-position gain as well. So he came out strong in qualifying too, don't forget that. Stevens also making a solid improvement. There's a little bit of a downward turn for the likes of Sprogis, Schmidt, Rapasa, etc. You can see on the boards there, but quality running nonetheless. You had very wild conditions, changing track surface all the time, and to hold it the way they did was a seriously impressive run from all of the drivers on the track, not just the ones at the top.
Yeah, it really was. It was a very challenging race for these drivers and for all of them to really keep it on the road and just navigate those conditions so well. It was a very good drive from all of them. Of course, the man who came out on top and navigated them the best. Leo Lund wins your Hungarian Grand Prix as we head into the festive break. Liam Stevens in second on his first race here this season, so a brilliant way to start off his late campaign. Riyad Sprogis in third, Yannick Schmidt fourth, followed by Lucas Rapassa in fifth, who picks up that late race penalty, which meant he couldn't challenge the Williams driver for that podium play. Top four place. Salam Bida sixth, Keanu Liato in seventh, 16 Lionheart from 16th on the grid up to 8th. Laurie Tulkey 9th, and then Ray's Imtiaz rounds out your top 10. Keaton Lutt, disappointing evening for the man second in the standings, finishes in 11th. Tudor Prescan 12th. Mark Ward 13th, 14th Hietella, Kokeni 15th, Zorzo 16th, Van Rooten in 17th, and then your DNFs. That is from your DNFs of Zorzo, Rooten, Donovan, Longay, and Justin Ertz rounds out your DNFs. And a very interesting race. Many championship implications. And crucially, if your name's Jan Halliday, who weren't here tonight, Yannick Schmidt, none of your title rivals really able to capitalise on you not being here.
Yeah, and that was really the clincher. You got Caden Luke in second place, 0 points. Leah Toad, who is going to be in 7th coming out of here, will get a little bit of a points packet. But then you look to the others. Van Rooyen, 17th DNF. No points for them either. Schmidt is going to be the real winner out of today's race because he is guaranteed to get himself into second place in the championship regardless at this point of what happens. A couple of points sprinkled here and there for the rest of the field. But of course, this is going to have some big implications. We, of course, jump to the other side of the pond and we head to our interviews. Going to hopefully get a chance to chat with some of the drivers and get a little bit of insight. We have just one joining us, it looks like. We'll see if any others make their appearance, but I think it's only fair that we bring in Mr. Leo Lund and we talk to him about how it feels to be on the top step here in Tier 2. So, Leo, can you hear us in the commentary box?
Yeah, hello.
All right, I'm gonna crank your volume right up there, and gonna open things up by saying 1, welcome, and 2, congratulations. How are you feeling coming out of Hungary?
I'm feeling pretty good. This is like one of my worst tracks, so yeah, I'm happy.
What were your expectations heading into this weekend?
I don't know, at least not a win. But yeah, of course points, but no, I did not expect a win.
Well, that's seriously impressive regardless. So you came out qualifying, you had 5th place. It was about a quarter of a second behind the eventual pole time of a 13.1. Would you say you had a bit more in the tank held by the weather, or was that really sort of your best flying run?
No, I had so much more. I was about to improve on my second run, but I did not take a corner as good as I did on my last run, so I fucked up a little and lost. And then I went to the third run and it was too wet.
And I guess that sort of leads us nicely onto your experience of the race, because of course we had evolving conditions, we'll call it. We started off on that sort of light rain to the point where the inters were just as viable, and in the end were more viable for that first half. But kind of just walk us through from your perspective how that race went, like any particular strategy calls when you made those judgments. I'd like to hear from your side of things how it went.
Starting on the softs, just trying to make as many positions as possible because I knew I was gonna pit for the inters, so I had, and then we went on the inters, so they were much quicker, just trying to manage the inters as much as I could. It went very good on the first stint, and then on the second stint we saw the dries and the wets were like equal, and the dries were just getting faster and faster, so I went to the hards and just doing my race from there, pushing.
Nice. Were there any particular moments where you were feeling nervous at all, or did you sort of have a cool handle on things for the majority?
Can you say again?
Were you feeling nervous at any point during the race?
Nah, I was just so focused but not nervous.
Well, love to hear it. And in the end, it paid dividends because you have come out on top heading out of the December calendar.
Yep.
Seriously impressive there. Before I hand it off to Max, I guess one final question from me. Because we come back in January, we come back on the 6th, and with that, we have China, Canada, Austria, and then into Lagos to finish. Out of those 4 tracks, is there any particular one that you look forward to?
Brazil, I would say. That's like one of my best.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Oh, looking forward to seeing it. Wow. Any questions from you, Max?
Yes, one from me, Leo. Of course, congratulations on your race victory. But when Liam made that move, I think it was on lap 33. He made the move for the race lead. Did you know that if you were able to stick with him, you were set for the race win once you made the move?
Yeah, I knew I can. Yeah, I knew I could win if I were used behind him to the last lap, because I had the better tires and better grip, so I could just manage some more ERS because the slip is so good on this game. And yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it just paid off in the end.
And
Yeah.
absolutely paid off. Sorry, Max.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, well, congratulations, Leo, on a superb drive.
Thanks.
Well, with that, I think we take a sort of well-earned festive break, mate. So, looking forward to seeing you potentially back on the track in January, looking refreshed, looking as fast as you have, and who knows, we might see you in this commentary box again sometime soon.
Yeah, see ya.
Take care.
Bye.
And with that, we have one more driver waiting to join us. Is a driver who has certainly put the hammer down and put down some serious pace and some serious challenges for the rest of the field. It's going to be Riyad Sprogis, so let's get him in here. Riyad, can you hear us in the commentary box? Can see you muted.
Yes, I can.
Perfect, perfect. Well, first off, good to have you. And 2, congratulations on a solid weekend. 2nd in quali, 3rd in the race. So tell us, how are you feeling after that one?
At the start, I was feeling really good. I was happy with my quali. P2 is more than enough, and I was ready to fight for the win. And then, yeah, in the race you saw, I tried everything. At the end, I really, basically every lap I tried to get next to Liam, which didn't succeed. But yeah, it was really fun to race against them. Some sketchy moments, tried everything. I tried to be a bit aggressive, didn't work, but yeah, fair play to them. And yeah, it's Hungary, probably one of the hardest tracks to overtake, if not the hardest. But yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it, and the first podium after a lot of months, I'd say that. And yeah, I'm really happy. Just sad that I had the pace. I really knew that if I could overtake Liam, I could go for the win, but sadly it didn't happen. But yeah, it is what it is.
Well, certainly a solid performance out there this weekend, and good to see you back in fighting form. I gotta ask, what was the race like from your perspective, if you could walk us through? Because you say that you were trying a lot of different things, so I wonder if you had a set strategy going in, or if this one was more, I guess, experimental.
It was just whatever is the best. You can't really expect anything from this race, as it was just from dry tires to wet to again dries, and it was really hard to predict. I think it wasn't even predictable, and a lot of people tried different strategies, and thanks God, everything was good on my side, and fair play to my engineer. Really good job to him, which he put me in a really good position to fight for the win. But yeah, sadly, as I said, really, really unfortunate.
Well, I say a podium is still a solid result, and that points, that healthy dosage of points, is certainly going to put you in good stead heading into the festive break. But tell me, last question from me before I hand it off to Max. 4 rounds. I'm going to ask you the same thing that I did with Leo. You got China, Canada, Austria, and then Brazil to finish. What one of those 4 are you looking forward to, if any of them?
I'm not looking for China. I think that's one of my worst tracks on the game, if not the worst. But other three are fine. I'm looking for Austria or Brazil, because I've had really good pace there, and hopefully we'll bring, if not podium, then really good points in them, and start to get those consistently points and finish in a good standing place.
Well, so if tonight is anything to go by, I think we've got a solid second half of the season ahead. But that's all from me. Of course, a brilliant job again, and a well-raced weekend. Over to you, Max. Anything?
Yes, one from me, Sprogis, of course. Well done on your third place in the Grand Prix. Just when you were behind Stevens in those later stages of the Grand Prix, were you getting a little bit frustrated that just nothing, well, everything you tried throwing at him just didn't work out in the way you wanted?
Yeah, of course, it was really frustrating. Like, every lap you use at the straight, then recharge, and then do the same thing for those, let's say, 15 or not even more laps. Yeah, I tried to get him, but yeah, as I said, it was possible, but it's really hard to do. And Liam always had a really good exit, and yeah, it was just really good racing between us three, and yeah.
Yeah, well, congratulations on your third place. It was a really strong drive from yourself, and I think that actually promotes you up to at least 7th in the standings, I think, from that one result.
Nice to hear. More to come, at least I think. Let's hope. But yeah.
I look forward to it and hope for it as well, because it's always nice to have your face in the commentary box. Well, take a well-earned break, mate. We'll see you back in January, and hopefully see you in the commentary box again very soon.
Of course. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Take care. And there you go, folks. That is where we are going to do it. A final reminder of what we have up in store, and of course the standings heading into the next round. Of course, the standings will be updated for you next time we see you, but we won't be seeing you for a little bit. You can catch us, though, on January the 6th as we head over to China, to Shanghai, and to a very different racing challenge. This one doesn't really get a lot of mileage, I gotta say. It's a rare appearance to have on the calendar, so I am personally glad to see it back. It has a couple of unique quirks. I particularly like that first sector, but it's an interesting track, and one that not all of the drivers are going to be fully acclimatized on.
No, they're certainly not, of course. China, of course, weren't on the real-life calendar. It was mainly added as one of the DLC tracks for the last few games, so not many drivers are as used to it as they used to be, so that could be where someone who may have practiced a little bit more and done a few more hours onto the game could somewhat come out on top. So it's going to be interesting to see. Of course, it's a circuit that does provide a lot of overtaking opportunities. Of course, as you said, that Sector 1, it's so tricky to get right. And if you're able to get it right, that is certainly either a good qualifying lap time in the bag or a good run down into turn 5 to get your lunge to the inside line and get an overtake done. So yeah, very interesting to see how that race will unfold. Plenty of overtaking opportunity, a bit wider than Hungary as well, and certainly going to be, I would say, a bit more action-packed on the overtakes. But again, chances of rain very high around China, so we could see another wet race in that Grand Prix as well.
And until then, folks, have a great break between now and January, and we will see you there for the Chinese Grand Prix. Goodbye from both of us in the commentary box. See you later. Take care, and goodbye.